So tell that story and let's just start from there. Do you mind?
No, so I was driving home from a friend's on a super rainy night. It was late at night, and I was on my way home. My car started wobbling and losing steam, and kind of started slowing down and shaking, and realized that I was running out of gas. And so I was a little bit scared because it was raining very intensely. It was very wet outside and stormy, and so I ended up pulling over to the side of the road, fortunately safely, but there was no street lights. It was in the middle of the country and the countryside, and so pulled over to the side of the road and found safety.
Cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
So let's fix this critter so we're both in it. Move a little that way, and I'll move a little this way, and then we can kick it.
This is yummy.
Cream and sugar, honey. We do like our coffee,
Yes.
It's true. It's true. I think for me, in the storytelling of it, it was that, that you were really helped.
I know.
And then, you say, well, so why are we giving them a bad time? And
there's nothing that says who the them is.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm jumping.
Yeah.
I recognize. I just did a jump
Almost.
because it's like the them. Who is the them? And the them is the mirage that's helping to support us in being made separate. And you talk about the judgment bug, and what was inspired for us stepping into this conversation was, we should talk about the judgment bug. And then we jumped in. I'm like, we got to get this on tape, honey, because we're talking about the fucking judgment bug, about the them. There is no them, but sides are created because, and I went to Hitler, and I went to what is happening on a social level that is supporting people in vilifying other people to make them not feel safe. And it's around territory, and it's around judgment, and it's around creating separation. So here is this amazing man who helps you. Comes in and he helps you and he gives from the heart, and you're like, damn. And it's just like, yeah, it's just like the backbone of the care and the work and what we're doing. And Trump is being a fucking ass, but he is just the mouthpiece for this system that wants to make sure that we are waging war against each other, so we can't really see how much everybody just wants to give a fucking helping hand.
Right. That's the reality. When I actually look at it, the people are actually helping each other.
And
everywhere.
And support, right. Everywhere you go. It's just like, here, let me help you.
Help each other. Fundamentally. I mean, it's like, there were people who pulled over to check and make sure, and, people were, I was
concerned, but you were like, I'm waiting for Geico. I'm waiting.
And this guy was like, basically, no, we're taking care of this, and you're getting out of here, and I got it, and this is what you need. I don't care if you don't have money. It's okay. Just let's take care of it and do it. This is what needs to be done. It's like, I have what you need. This is what needs to be done. I'm gonna do it. And so he took care of it, and it was like, it was very easy. And came and shook my hand and said, just like nothing. Just like, thank you. And on my way. And then I ended up almost running into a deer, like a big deer with a rack, and it was just like, wow, yeah.
Grounding is being invited.
Yes. Well, I got the message that, it's like, it's at the end of running out of gas, running batteries, like, okay, yeah, I get it. But it's, and I knew when I was going out there that I was going to end up being potentially running out of gas. I was just like, I was going to get money,
right.
I needed to take the stress, like, got to get the money, so.
During a time in my life, I called it walking bottom. And in walking bottom, it's a different assignment. And that assignment is saying that in order to function in this world, I have to walk a different line that's really listening to different things, that supports me in not having a lot of money. And really supports me in stepping through a different kind of conversation with our economic system, and then all that means. And so when you're talking, that's what I think of. I think of, and how does that resonate with you when I speak about walking bottom?
Oh, I mean, definitely feel that. I mean, I know I mean, it has been going on. It's like, to me, it's like, it's no surprise. And when I looked at my clock, it was actually 9:11. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. Perfect timing. But it's more of the understanding. It's like, yes, I know that I'm there, and there's a total knowing that there's plenty coming. It's just realigning to that right now.
Right.
That's for me.
No.
I'm totally like, it's just a cycle, and I know that there's plenty of abundance that's ready to be received from me showing up and doing what I do, and it's all very clear. I'm not worried. It's just I got to get through the I need to get from A to B, and
it's more of framing. That's you're walking on a riverbed, and you're getting from A to B, and in that you don't know where, but you have to follow a certain line of being, and I'm just honoring that from my perception that triggered that part of me that did that many years ago, that found my way through, and it's so it's just a mirroring, because our world, to run out of money and to run out of gas is not a little thing, and as we're sharing with the folks, it's like sharing what is the impetus for that, because as we learn to really follow our gifts, follow our heart calling, it's true, the abundance is there. And taking those steps, and not everybody.
The abundance shows up in people helping.
That's my point.
It doesn't require money. It's like, it's, the wealth is in our relationships, in the people we help each other, and that's the wealth. Like, it doesn't require, like, we've been convinced that we need the money for it, but ultimately it's all fundamental trade exchange. I get it, but it's like,
well, it's how do we build a society that's based on relational exchange? Because there's plenty, but right now it's still caught in this other symbology.
What symbology?
The economic social structure is a symbology that's concretized by the agreements we make and how we choose to engage around resources and funding and support and governance. And that goes through the whole the spectrum of how we get things done. If you do something bad, we will put you in jail.
Right.
If you don't pay the bills, we will kick you out. You have to pay the bills in this kind of a way in order to be successful. And they've got people programmed from kindergarten up to follow these rules. And
that's what the school system is kind of teaching.
It
to
is
make good workers, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was developed in the Industrial Revolution to detach.
Because previously they were in farmers at home, right? They were staying home.
All of the above, farmers, cobble people, little sub niches that built up a
Education was happening in
village.
the cultural experience.
It was a totally different thing. The other, when they take children out of the home and put them into
so they're separating the
industrial,
parents from their children in a daily basis, and it's creating a
and guess what they're having to listen to?
What?
A bell. You're constantly being told timing and when to do it and how to do it and this and that.
Training. It's like you're training dogs.
Arf.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't
keep in line. Keep in line.
So all of so as you start to bust out of that,
but that's important. There is an importance to keeping structure, right?
How does the structure do it? Does it use judgment bug? Does it use authoritarian hammer? Does it use violence to control? Does it create shame and blame? Or does it offer the reward? Or is the system, there's the thing to recognize is it's a system. And in that system, very good things happen. Our society grew this camera that is capturing us right now. It's not to say this is the evolutionary path we have gone on, and it's gotten us this far, and there's a corruption at its base, and in that corruption, just like entropy, anything that's built up is eventually going to crash down. So this old system is bogging and grabbing for the last amount of power it can muster, and looks kind of like Trump. you know, this kind of warped, cartoonish expression of power that truly has sharp teeth, because he's got a lot of power. You know, I don't necessarily, I don't trust bullies, and that's part of authoritarian dynamics empower bullies because they're not afraid to use violence to get what they want. People get afraid of violence, and then therefore stay in line. And within the judgment bug component, you, over time, what you find is that it's so entrenched in the conditioning from mother, child, parent, religion, consciousness to stay in line. Because if you don't stay in line, you could get ostracized, beheaded, undermined. So the parent then becomes the hammer of judgment machine.
Right.
And then it gets passed on to the system. And within that, there are always good hearts, always loving beings, always finding their pathway, and yet we're all entrenched in this social
conditioning. It's just something that's like gets passed on from one, like, this is how we do it. And for me, like, I think that there's a fear that if that wasn't in place, what kind of chaos would arise if people weren't in line? So what would happen?
Yeah, they're very scared.
Well, I mean, it's just like the fear of what
the uncontrollable
the
feminine
chaos
expression
of human expression community.
Well, you can't get much worse than what they're doing now. Like, come on, boys.
Right.
Really? Like, let's blow each other up and kill each other open. And I mean, they're
right. It could go the reverse, where it's like orgies and everything, like straight.
Well, if you think about it, it is the repression that is acting
it's creating the war and the violence and the devastation.
We don't give ourselves permission to be who we are.
So it's unexpressed, so it comes out in these ways.
And we don't give ourselves the capacity to have full spectrum without judgment, so we stop ourselves from full expression. And then we get caught in being able to, when we're given permission to have a feeling like go to war, have a thing, it's like your insides get aligned because here's a place you can do that on the football field. Rah! You know, the power and the passion and all of these different ways in which the tribal energy is given permission to release and bond keeps this system in place. You know, and so all this energy is being expressed on the war game. You know, and inside of the sexual, twisted, game-playing social dynamics that undermine our capacity to actually have human interactions, because you're so plugged into killing or the sex thing or whatever that thing is that's giving you permission to access your primal genitals.
In your own space, in your own world.
And safe. But, you know, so this is just kind of like, just showing how these are the ways in which culture has given permission to the primal.
But undercover. And so it suppresses it, and then it comes out in war.
And that's just like one thread. It's just like, how do we, you know, and this is what is happening on a cultural level as you go into small-time communities and people, and they're really trying to do it differently. They're really trying to understand emotion and work, you know, you've heard about it, you've been in it.
Recently. Well, but even more experimental, where this one guy was telling me about a community that's all about free love.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
I don't know what it is, but it's fascinating. I felt he was totally accurate. He says, the main problem is the punishment. That we're so afraid of punishment. And the suppression, the hiding. We're all going around hiding all of these things. That it's just make it transparent. What do you want? What do you need? Let the community support you and love you in doing what you need, without judgment, without criticism, or without like punishment. If you do what you want to do, who you are is against the law. What you're doing is against the law. No, this is me. This is who I want to be. But then we punish them because get back in line. That's too far. That's too much. That's not. We can't contain that. It's off the line. You know.
I have a lot of experience in these conversations, and so I just really honor that in which you just mapped out, because that's the impetus that our social is yearning to explore. And some pockets of us humans, such as this organization that I said, it's a community in Portugal, Tamara. And I experienced a workshop with them in which I heard what they were saying, which is, you know, what you were saying, and then I experienced a hierarchy in a way that I witnessed many people in this workshop of over 100 people not having a way to be included in the conversation in a healthy way.
Still dominant.
Because of the hierarchy of the way in which the workshop was set up. Because it felt like they had been doing this work inside of their community, but to take it out into the world as teachers, I just noticed there was some youngness. And in that, I got triggered because I witnessed people getting into their pain bodies. And as a facilitator, since I was very young, it's like I've been able to track the relational exchanges of a group system and witness and see who's hurting, why, who didn't get spoken to, how, and that also included me. Because oftentimes my voice wasn't given the space to open. And then, so I would say I became also a part of the problem. So I was not part of the solution. And that's part of how do we socially recognize all of these different amazing groups and build out a social, and this is my call out for Culture for Care, for the judgment bug, is building a hub in which leadership and counsel can grow so that we can all evolve these different systems together. You know, and Culture for Care was really anchored in recognizing that there are more individuals and more social systems on a micro level, you know, like little mushrooms everywhere, growing psyche for me to keep up with. Like I have my personal model that I've been working on for years, and I share it with people, and they're like, oh my God, did you read this book? Or oh my God, did you hear about this community? Or oh my God, and I'm like, no. But I want to share that wisdom with the collective so that the dialogue can expand, because we are so much bigger than people recognize. And then my voice is just like a song in the symphony. So to me, and one of my pieces is, and this constantly comes back around, how do we build leadership that can call each other on their shit? How do we build trust that can help us evolve the archetypes that live within us in a way that we grow from each other's acknowledgments? And I have a lot of acknowledging to do. Like, and I track it too. It's just like I'm aware of two of my best friends from when I was a child. You know, Miranda and Belle. If you ever hear this, I am so sorry. You know, like, whoa. You know, and up through time, I can track the places that I haven't shown up as a human, where I cut away, where I didn't have it, where I, you know, and I didn't even know how bad it was until one day in my 30s, I felt my old best friend and and I could feel like, wow, I really hurt you. God, I was so fucking oblivious. You know, and that's the kind of conversations I want to nurture so that people can do that thing and start to knit. Because my belief is that if we do this, we are unstoppable. Because we face our conflicts together, we open up that conversation, we hear each other wash through, and we evolve the conversation.
We become allies rather than fighting each other.
Thank you. That's like my wish. You know, and then it's also about like sitting in the fire, like with both. I mean, I have no idea. It's so sad. I don't know their children. We were children together, Bella and Miranda, and we have no contact. You know, and I don't know what that would be, but it's always lived in my heart to just do that. So if I ever can, and then it's like being open to what their reality is. You know, and that's not a little thing. And that's like, but how do you show leadership And it may not be ever with them, I don't know, because it can't, it's like, but in, like, and then, you know, and then there's like Tara, who I love, and all my other peeps, you know, if I ever could sit with Lorena and Tobin, I mean, we'd have a blast. But in acknowledgement of all my threesomes, I have so many threesomes, you know, so these are my call outs for creating a better human relation. And then each one creates a ripple of how do we do this better.
I wanted to speak to this piece around the being, like, you can't avoid the interconnectivity. Like, we're all interconnected.
It's true.
Undeniable.
And yet people don't know how to feel it. They
it's
don't.
Just the reality of how we impact each other in the system. You can't get out of the matrix of the system of the interconnectivity of all the people and relations and community upon communities. And you know, this, like, I really feel that the work you're doing is healing those interconnections and those relations of structures, systems, healing their communication, healing their relation, like, yeah.
That is actually it, because it is the one-on-one piece, but it's really like, it's like the nucleus of how, like,
it becomes an entity, it becomes an energy.
Quantum entanglement healing our archetypes.
It's
so we heal
like
a systems healing.
It keeps basically the systems, unknowingly, keeps people in line in a certain way that they're unconsciously following these protocols that are imposed on them. Like these conditionings where it's like, to maintain the structure, right? To maintain that, the perception of maintaining the structure. That if I don't do these things, then it's going to fall apart, right?
Well, I mean, so
there is some reality.
Well, here I've thought of. I mean, this is a piece. What you say makes me think of something that I think is really true. That people have been conditioned to feed, to get their needs met, to be a part of a system in a certain way.
Feed on what?
Whatever. Life, how we get things done. The basics, so our basic, like, so all of these pieces are like deeply a part of who we are.
Core need,
football.
Desire.
So football is like how I get my needs met this way, or attached to a certain kind of way of being that supports the system, that's aligned with the conditioning. You're conditioned, and in
so
the
conditioning,
and then it becomes who you are. But what I'm pointing to, which is the key piece, is that when new information comes and threatens that part of you, you go into a defensive position. You're not even tracking that you feel quite so threatened. And you can't see the information coming to you in a way that's not moving it through your threat. And then you want to vilify it, make it wrong, kill it, make it go away. Whatever it is that is threatening a core piece of yourself, it's conditioned into these things. And that's where...
Is it threatening your freedom?
It's threatening your sense of self. And this is where it's true. If you were to take this piece of information and truly swallow it, you would not be able to be the same person. You wouldn't be able to do these things. You couldn't do them. Therefore,
that's ultimately why people stay asleep.
Well, stay. They've learned. Numb. They stay numb. They've learned to. This is, and I think that's part of the dialectic conversation that we're inviting is self-reflection. Self-reflection, because we have to debug ourselves of our own internal authoritarian, of our own internal bullies. We have to debug ourselves from our internal shame bodies. We have to create a different kind of neurological way of questioning who we are to align with the parts of ourselves that are growing into a social conversation that's much more humanly connected to the reality of our interconnectedness on all levels. But so how do we, so all of this inner work is good, but then how do we take that inner work and then apply it to relational exchange and this is where a whole nother conversation of, culture for care and Tribalize and all of the conferences and all of the new economies and, Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. And, for me, it's about heart genius and how do we create a different kind of social revolution that's truly relationally exchanged and agreed upon that shifts it from, and this is where, how do we get there? And I think of technology, and I think of militarism, and I think of all the things, and I think of how much time and energy is put into, sending probes to Mars, and the money that we spend to look out at the galaxy, but it's just this focus of our creative capacity is aimed off-world, which is gorgeous because of the nebulas that we're creating, an awareness around what we're a part of, which is this huge galactic place. But I really question the impetus is, how do we take that intelligence and apply it to new social systems that help us to navigate in a way that we can balance our ecosystem, because right now there's just not enough resources to do what we're doing that much longer. There's just not. And global climate shift is just real, and we're all kind of dancing within the denial. And yet awakening, which is even more painful, because to awaken and to see how much fucking denial is out there is painful.
And that's why people ultimately don't want to awaken.
Don't show me!
Right. Because there is an initial chaos. There is an initial, and then that's in the medicine work. It's like you don't want to like open the door too quick, because people can get kind of blown out and terrified.
Unless you have, and terrified.
Integration.
And integration is key, and listening and not forcing, giving somebody the ability to. Yeah.
So I mean, it's how do you support the natural unfolding, but also how do you like help accelerate it so that it can quicken, so that we can get on with it.
Well, any medicine work done.
That's right.
Quicken, get on with it. That's what we're up about. I think that those of us who are drawn to the quickening are quickening, and then how to make it safe for that quickening to be a meme of intention, and that meme.
So that can be a virus. That gets shared,
meme is virus.
Exponential.
And it's happening, and yet, what's also happening is the crunchy teeth of the lockdown system. That's just not pretty, and how much resources does go towards defense. And the psyche behind the defense. And so one of my other pieces is, the warrior